What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
And, wow, we got a lot of different colors going on today, guys.
We got the pink
shirt.
You gotta get the...
Yeah, pink, black. Well, I said colors, and I'm like, I'm wearing the black shirt. What a ding-dong. Okay, well.
Pink Friday. Again.
Pink Friday, I like it.
If you don't remember,
Is that a color
the reason
or
I
mood?
wear this is because my granddaughter Yalia was born on a Friday, so I'm just representing.
Yeah.
And then I get to see her later today.
And just, yeah, her first birthday. Her first birthday is right upon us, so awesome, man. Congratulations, Grandpa.
Yeah, there you go.
Papa, what did she call you? Did she call you anything yet?
Yeah, she calls me nothing.
She calls you blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. No. But
you
it's
guys,
Pa.
It's Pa. All right. Well, Pa, Brian, and myself are going to talk about housing. It is totally front and center, even though it's like not front and center. Here's kind of why we were talking about this today. So, obviously, the last 2 weeks, like tariffs and this whole stuff has just dominated like every conversation everywhere, online and in the news and whatever. And it's like it's exhausting. But because of that, like, it's like housing has become like this sidecar, like a motorcycle, the sidecar. Like housing is like right there with it because like, hey, hold on a second, this is changing everything. Housing is a massive industry. It's like we had rate whiplash last week, and rates are low, rates are high, rates are higher, and they're all over the place. So now housing is like getting like grabbed by the neck and like dragged through the room with all this stuff going on. So we need to talk about that because we have like inventory happening. We have spring and summer buying season happening. We have like rate volatility. We have the arguments of like, is real estate a better investment than the market? And like on one day you go, well, yeah, the market's tanking, it's sucking wind. Of course, real estate's better. And then you see the market go up like 12% in a day. You're like, well, I don't know. So it seems like it's such like a micro, what I'm trying to say, like horse blinder type conversation, you know? It's like, it depends on when you ask the question and what the circumstances are, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. There's just so much uncertainty right now, and it's just, we're going one way, you think, yeah, let's plan for this, and then next thing you're like, can't plan for that. We're going to have to wait for that now. So we're starting to see that kind of stuff happen, you know, where we felt like, yeah, we understand what interest rates are going to happen. You know, we're experts in that. Right now, it's so hard to tell. Right now, all I tell is I tell our clients, if you guys feel comfortable with the interest rate I just provided, let's lock it in. It's a lock it, dock it, and put your money in your pocket. Otherwise, that ain't going to happen.
So today we're going to talk about we're not going to really go as much into the articles like we normally do, but we're going to like broad cover it. And then we're going to just talk, we have to share opinion and like front of the line, like market insights and what's happening like right now.
Perfect.
So that's kind of going to be the tone of today for everybody watching.
Yeah, and Andy, it just sounds like there was so much stuff going on this last week that just, combusted everything into just, a huge mess. But one of the things that I do advise for people looking to buy, in the summertime or this spring is to stay active, be aware of what's out there, and position yourself in a way that's going to allow you to move quickly. Because if you haven't understood the following and reoccurring theme is that things move very quickly. And in a second, things could completely change if you're not, taking the adequate steps to be able to, get to where you want to go. So I would really, really advise to be ready to move very quickly because things are moving just like that.
It's a little bit schizophrenic, right, guys?
Well, let's start with this first article.
So,
it just says it all. Right
so
there,
this is a great segue. So mortgage rates slingshot higher as tariff uncertainty roils markets. So we saw this firsthand sitting in the front row seat, guys, when the whole tariff thing like kicked into place, like the mortgage market like just plummeted, rates tanked, but it was very short-lived. And that was like that Thursday, Friday, the first week in April. And then you come back to the week, the full trading week. And now it's like rates are higher. Oh, they're higher again. They're higher even more. And they're higher than where they started before the tariffs. So
Absolutely. Now
we have an issue where there's like this whiplash. So like, what are you telling people right now? Because I know last show we talked a little bit about like, hey, God, this is the reason why we keep telling you be ready so that on the day when it is low, you can strike while the iron's hot. Okay, well, you missed it if you didn't do it. But now what do you do if we're in this elevated rate environment, guys?
Again, it's very difficult, Andy. We have clients texting us and telling us, hey, we saw your podcast, rates are low, can I refinance? Well, guess now what I have to tell them? It's not. And I love right here how it starts with the article.
When you got the email,
Yeah. And here's the article. Mortgage rates are now about where they were and have been for the past 6 weeks. We're back. It's just that. It's that quick. And that's what all these tariffs, everything that's going on, it has a huge impact and influence in what's happening to our interest rate market. Even though we did see, the CPI and inflation go lower, we saw that normally when we see that data, we see interest rates in our favor. This time around, we have been getting hit. We started this morning at 79 basis points worse.
Right. So what that tells me is typically without the tariff conversation on the table, if inflation comes in low like that or negative, meaning it's actually going down, not slowing down, but actually going down, this is the negative number I've been talking about, guys. For how many years have I said, don't tell me inflation's going down until there's a negative number? This is not what I'm talking about.
I thought about you this morning.
When you saw it was like negative 0.4 CPI. Andy says negative. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. But I'm not trying to get distracted. What I'm saying is, like, the indication here is that the sentiment about what's happening with tariffs is way outweighing any good information with inflation, which has been the problem for like 4 years. Yeah. So even though that's been like the biggest behemoth of the entire thing, the tariff thing is still even way bigger than that in this window of time.
Yeah. Going back to the influx of refinance calls we got just last week. One of the things I would advise right now, if you're looking to refinance, if you've been noticing the market, is we have these drastic drops, and it does take time for things to come back up, but they do come back up, and we saw that pattern a few times last year. Although maybe they don't go back to where you want them to, but the advice here is get in, run your numbers, see what that looks like, and sit still if it's not somewhere that that you want to be at. What that gives you, it gives you the opportunity to see where you started, but also follow the market as it's shifting and moving, so that when the time comes and the rate is where you want it to be, you can actually lock it in and not have to wait, send your documents in, and at that time, by the time you want to lock, the rate's not even there anymore. It's too late. Completely gone.
It's too late.
On the flip side, if you're a buyer trying to make your way in and break into this market, it's the exact same thing. Get your reps in there, get out there, see what the open houses look like, ask a lot of questions, what the sellers are looking for, what the motivation is, what negotiations are available in the favor of the buyer to be able to strategize a good offer and have the opportunity when the time comes. But if you're looking to buy a house a week out to get pre-approved, you're already months out,
like a month late.
Behind. Yeah, exactly. So my advice is, if you're looking to make a move in 2025, stay ready, get ready, and move very quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
So do you guys, so the question that is posed kind of in the article, and I'm going to bring it up, and I think I know what you're going to say, but I don't know if it's changed since I asked last. It's like, if you had a 5-year time horizon, do you think someone should still buy a house this spring and summer? Yes or no? And
yes,
why?
If you can.
Okay, why? Go ahead.
Well, we understand that purchasing a home there's a lot of value into that already. And so, especially if we're heading into a recession, we'll start seeing interest rates drop. Right. And so if that's where we're going to be heading and you're able to buy now, you already can foresee the light at the tunnel that you're going to have a much lower interest rate as we move forward, where it's going to put you in a favorable position to be able to maintain your payments. So absolutely. And again, we're talking about it, and I know that the next article is going to talk about, whether buying a home or a stock is better. A home's always going to outperform your stock. It's more predictable, to have a home, understanding the appreciation in the area, or what that's going to do, what's that going to look like long term. It used to be that we could look at things over the next 3-5 years, but nowadays it's longer than that. I'm going to say more like 8-10 years. So you could start reaping the rewards of your home equity.
I'll take a different approach. In the last 5 years, have houses got any more affordable?
No, they got more expensive.
And do we think that they're going to get more affordable as time comes?
More affordable, possibly, but that's like that rate and price conversation. Correct. So I think I'm getting where you're going, and I have a response. Go ahead.
Right. What about values?
Values are going to go up. Long term, they're going to go up.
So if we notice that everything's been going up, and significantly since we started taking track of prices of houses, I feel that if you're in the position right now and you're able to get your needs and not your wants, that's going to put you in a better position, so that when the time comes around and you want to get what you want, you're going to be in a better position, because you can leverage that one property that you got into right now to then jump from that one, or utilize that one to get your next property that can have all the things that you want.
Yeah. So where I kind of meet in the middle of what you're talking about, guys, is like I was thinking about this. I'm looking back at like 2020 and 2021. Right? Did we really foresee that we'd be locking rates at 2.25% for VA and 2.5%, 3%? Like even 3%, people are like 3%. Why isn't it 2.5%? Like what? Looking back in the rearview mirror, like, damn, I take 3% all day. I take 4% all day long right now, right? Okay, but so here's the idea. Well, so if you buy a house now, and let's say your rate is 7%, Okay. Well, if rates go lower, well, then you have the house to refinance to a lower rate later.
Correct.
But if 7% is where you're at now and rates in 5 years are higher, then you now do have the lowest of the time frame. So when I look back and I think back about the people that are like, oh, 2.5%, 3%. Like, well, if I'm looking at 3, what if it goes lower? Cool. If it goes lower, you get lower. But if it goes higher, you ain't gonna see that 3 again.
Yeah.
It's just that was such a shockingly low number that I think people don't necessarily apply that same thought process now at 6, 6.5, 7, when it's the same idea. And so the whole concept of, hey, if you're trying to buy a house, just buy a house. This is what I'm trying to meet with you guys in the middle. You're trying to buy a house, just buy a house because it's either going to get cheaper later on the rate, like your point is, and it'll be less expensive or total out-of-pocket cost. Or if you are going to have a higher rate environment, well, at least you still have the house and you got your lowest of the time window that you bought rate, and the value will carry you into the future.
Absolutely.
So I'm 100% on the side of buying, obviously, but I don't know. I think that the variety of conversations you have, because you have two completely different demographics age-wise that you tend to talk to between the two of you. You also have a lot of people who are on the edge of savviness, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm trying to buy my second, my third, multiplex. I'm using my VA for my second, third, fourth, fifth time, whatever. And then you have people that are just starting out buying their first house. Like, what do I do? What? So there's a wide variety of this conversation happening.
Absolutely.
So that's why that's the curiosity coming from me today. And then as we always talk about with people, like if you are in the preparation mode for buying a house, there will be a day where the market's in your favor and these guys are going to be like, oh, you should lock your loan today because this is what's happening. We don't know if it's going to happen again, and just go ahead and take the offer. It's on the table. Bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. Yeah. Take what you get, right? So, continue working on your credit, continue working on your income, continue paying down debt, continue saving money, continue all those things that are healthy financial habits to prepare yourself for the pending purchase that's ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. One of the things I want to bring up on this article, it says last week, the 30-year fix dropped to the lowest level since October after President Donald Trump announced global tariffs. So we used to not really see that huge freaking influence in interest rates, but I really think the reason why things are happening at a much faster rate right now is because we know when this guy says he's going to do something, it's happening.
Yeah.
Well, the implication of it is huge, right?
It's
so
huge.
The economic implication is, on one side, like flashing red light, on the other side, opportunity ahead. And there might be a disproportionate weight of those two things, but clearly the markets were taking the threat seriously, if you will.
It is. And, just making sure that he hired the Secretary Scott Bessent, I mean, he looks like a genius.
The Secretary of Treasury, Scott
Yes.
Bessent, yeah. What's funny is I was listening to that guy even before he was like, I don't know how I found him. I honestly don't even remember. But when he was like named, I was like, oh, I know that guy. Like I've listened to his economic theory and all that, and I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's actually is pretty solid. Again, but all politics aside, I'm like, even myself trying to poke holes in the concept and the theory, and I was like, oh wait, actually that makes a lot of sense.
That was when years ago, him and Soros, they tanked the UK market. I'm not sure if you recall that.
Yeah, no, I know about that.
This guy's just a genius, right? So having him in our side, making sure that the economy doesn't tank, that's like that extra layer of security that we have by just having this type of person there.
Yeah, we're gonna have a split decision on people who love or hate George Soros on our show.
Well,
but
this is not him,
the
right?
Scott
This is
Bessent
totally
part,
different. Bessent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the Scott Bessent part,
Yeah.
it's like there are certain economic theories that you see play out in capitalistic societies that work and then that don't work, and then history repeats itself and proves that certain things are better. And there's no perfect system, first of all, number one, and there's no perfect solution. It's just some solutions are more painful on the broader base, and then there's solutions that are more painful on certain select parts of the base. And there's always an ebb and flow to that.
Touching
sure is.
touching
Touches us all some way.
touching bases on what you just said, and I'm no expert on policy or laws, but one of the things I'd notice as a regular everyday person is that when they mentioned tariffs and they enacted tariffs, the 10-year yield tanked.
Yes.
And for everybody that's been following our show, we know that when the 10-year yield tanks or drops, that signifies that rates should be following along.
Yes.
Although we didn't just see that yet this last couple of days and weeks, but that's just to show you and foreshadow that, things are happening, the pressure is there, and I'm very confident, you could give me my meter right now, that rates in these next couple of weeks and months are going to retract and slowly start, following suit along with the 10-year.
Yeah.
I honestly think that whatever happens between the negotiations of the United States and China is going to set the temperament. I'm saying temperament on purpose. It's going to set the temperament, therefore the temperature of the markets in the bond side of things, because we're not getting away from the national debt conversation. That's still going to have to be addressed, and it's going to be harder to address when rates are high versus when they're low.
Yeah.
So ultimately, whether there's tariffs or not tariffs, or there's policy and not policy, that's still coming to a head and will have to get addressed. Yeah. But I think that the temperature and how am I trying to phrase this? I'm trying to say, like, how rocky the waters are going to be is really going to come down to what happens between China and us when it comes to what we're tariffing each other on.
Don't be surprised if we have another type of virus, right?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second.
One last thing, though. I think
off the rails.
The partnership between Trump and, what is his name, Bessent?
Yeah,
Bessent. Okay, so the relationship between them is very unique, because I feel that Trump is more of the driver, that he's the visionary, saying, "Hey, we got to go do this, and that." He's the voice in the speakers and talking that. Whereas Bessent, he's an implementer. He's going to go and take what Trump says and actually implements it into the government in a way that isn't as crazy as he portraying it out here.
Correct.
Yeah.
But then again, we're just gonna have to wait and find out.
I will say something that and then this is just maybe it's me more my personal capacity. What is very discouraging is that I see some of the things that they're mechanically doing that do cause better outcomes for all being labeled as really malicious when they actually aren't. It's a very disingenuous way to try to black label an action that ultimately is going to help, but it's kind of like it hurts at first. Like if you have to re-break your bone to set it in place and it eventually heals, the re-break hurts, but eventually the arm heals and it's functional again. And that there's some of that that's happening, and people just don't want to be honest about it. That's the truth. People just don't want to be honest about it.
Schumer and Pelosi wanted tariffs.
Well, okay.
Let's go on to the next subject, please.
Oh God, I'm trying to avoid the controversy of
I'm
it.
trying to get into it, but because I think people will enjoy to see what their point of views are.
Yes and no. But my point is the disingenuous part is that people that don't like have these conversations or like honestly research enough to understand the mechanical part of it, you're just being fed something that's not true about what the function of it is and the outcome. So it's like, oh yeah, well, they're going to break your arm again, and then your arm's going to hurt more and longer. It's like, no, that's not it. Don't say part of the story without telling the other context of it. That's what bothers me.
In that perspective, I totally agree. But then again, curiosity kills a cat. You put the information on there, and then people could go and do their own research as well and make up their own decisions. So I also think that's fair.
So Brian's basically just telling you all go to chat and ask your question. Okay, next topic. We're going to end on the chat GPT. Okay. Real estate versus stock market, which is a better investment right now, according to financial experts. I don't really want to talk about these financial experts. I want to ask you guys, and I'm going to start with this. The quote here by our friend at BlackRock, CEO Larry Fink. Most CEOs I talk to would say we are probably in a recession right now. Okay, I'm going to say something, and then we're going to talk about this, okay? First of all, a recession is traditionally defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP.
I haven't seen that.
Which we have not had. So on the surface, him saying this is already a bullshit farce. I don't even know you, Larry, but come on, bro. The second thing is, back when we did have 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP, everyone scurried to redefine what a recession was to cover their ass.
Yeah.
So I am not happy that right now, when you have the opposite happening, they're saying we're probably already in one, when we're, by classical definition, we're not.
We're not.
And what everyone's saying this to is they're trying to, again, confuse the masses that, oh, well, the stock market's down 10%, 15%, 18% on the index or whatever. We're in a recession. The stock market and the economy and GDP are interplaying with each other, and they're not as tightly connected as everyone wants to say they are.
Yeah.
So there's my beef with this comment. Do you guys think that we are in a recession, or do you think we are not? And then, do you think, is real estate a better investment long-term than the stock markets?
I believe it depends who you ask. You'll get a different answer of whether we're in a
Because of politicization?
Yes, exactly.
That's such garbage.
But truthfully, I mean, if you see it black and white and you go based off what the actual term is, then yes, we were in a recession. But, you know, people can digest that however they want to. Now, as far as, you know, whether you should buy real estate or buy stocks, I think it comes down to whatever you feel the most comfortable with, whatever you understand the most, because although both of them have great benefits, you know, whatever makes you feel that you're going to be able to actually keep up with, you're actually going to, you know, spend the time and invest into it, definitely start with that, because one of them I feel takes more time. The other one is more accessible where you can have it in your phone. Yeah. Whereas real estate is a lot more leverage. You do have a lot more risk involved, whereas, you know, with stocks, it's in your pocket, it's in your phone. You know, it's not something tangible like a real estate asset, but it does give people that, you know, that feeling where they could feel like they're investing, and from there start, you know, leveraging that and then move into the real estate, where I honestly feel real estate for certain people is the end game, but everybody enters at different points based off their knowledge of, you know, finances, what they're comfortable with, and their risk tolerance.
Okay.
Got it. You know, for me, obviously, the data does not show. We haven't seen the GDP down for 2 consecutive quarters, right? So we don't have that. So obviously, we're not there. But does it feel like a recession for some people? Absolutely. For me, instance, it does feel like a recession because this is the 4th consecutive year going in the lowest home sales there's been. And so even though I'm not in the home sales, we're in the home financing, we feel the pain. And I don't care who it is, who you are out there in the nation, top producers, we all felt the pain. And it's still something that's being discussed. You know, as far as buying a home versus stocks, a home provides shelter. A home provides a roof. A home provides an instrument that later down you can use for, you know, utilize it however you wish to pay debt down, similar to a stock. But I just think the longevity of it, I feel an investment in real estate is going to be far greater. It's something that most people will understand. People will hold a home and know that while they're making their payments, they're paying down a principal on there. Therefore, they're creating more value. And it's something that's easier understandable, a lot more basic. Whereas a stock, most people don't understand that. You know, most people, it's like, how do I crash the market, or where do I even go to invest? You know, sometimes they even say that, you know, you could put a monkey in front of him and put a bunch of stocks and just have him throw darts at him, and he probably is going to make a better decision what stocks to buy versus a financial advisor.
Yeah, random chance, yeah.
Right? So who knows? For me personally, I think the most investors, they invest in real estate because it's predictable.
Yeah.
You know, and so here in the article, it also says outlook for real estate market. While tariffs can cause uncertainty, historical speaking, investing in real estate is a solid bet.
So I have both as my answer because we do both, yeah. Right? We have money in the market, and then there's real estate holdings, right? Okay, so there's that part. Yes, obviously you're living in your home, you need a place to stay, and you can leverage it later if you want to. You know, one of the things that I think is important to clarify in this whole recession part, GDP, negative, 2 consecutive negative quarters, is with the Doge element, and I didn't say this, so I'm going to come back to it, and I'll come back on course. With how much government spending was also participatory in that third-party nature of that money coming from government spending into the markets, it does have a semi-inflated value that I think we're seeing that's going to get stripped out long-term over some of the markets maybe. But the other thing that happens is in the hedge fund world and in the investment world, hey, if something's 20% off, you're probably buying it, right? Yeah, so there's that element too where you're going to see these 5, 10, 20% dips, people can buy it. That's also true with real estate. We just haven't seen it yet. So the price of the stocks can go down 10, 15, 20%. People are going to start scooping it up. Like they're going to hit their strike point where they're like, hey, I'm ready to buy. Mm-hmm. In real estate, that would happen the same way. It's just not happening with prices. And I think part of that has to do with inventory and supply. And because prices elevated so quickly out of the COVID era in 21, 22, with lack of inventory, they've kind of stayed put. And even in some areas where they've softened a little bit, because they went up 20%, 30%, 40% in value, if you annualize that over the same course of time, if you're in an area that went up 40% in the last 4 years, just for simple math, I'm not going to get into compound math, so don't at me in the comments being like, you're not using proper. 40 divided by 4 is 10. Yeah. So you're getting a 10% return on your house every year for the last 4 years if you're in a 40% growth area. And if you're in a 20% growth area, it's 5%. So you might have money in your home, you might have money in your stock portfolio, or both, and you're going to be getting some sort of good returns because over that same course of time, in the last 4 or 5 years, you see the S&P almost double, Dow almost double, NASDAQ go crazy, crypto, all this kind of stuff. So in this moment in time, it's easy to say that both work because both are true, but for very different reasons. And long term, I think both are proven to generate a return. You just have to stay in them long enough. And
absolutely.
And that's it. You got to stay in them long enough, guys.
You listen, I'm diverse with it. I put money in stocks and make sure that I have that. Obviously, the last couple of years has been a little more difficult to do that. But the good thing is with the compounding interest and stuff like that, you could always go and borrow. You could always do or know that you have a safety net then, which is very, very important. And kudos to my boy, Scott.
What it sounds based on everything that we said is that there's multiple ways to skin the cat.
That is.
There's multiple ways to skin the cat. And although I know, us being in real estate, we know forefront and, we know the data that real estate is the most, not safe at us at times, the most consistent, the most reliable. But, I'd argue that other people don't like real estate and some people understand the stocks way better and it benefits more for them. That's why I said, whatever you understand the most, invest in that.
No, and I believe that, Brian, but at the same time, I think most people, even if they're stock investors, they have some type of stake in real estate.
Oh, 100%.
Because they understand that. And I know you mentioned a little bit that sometimes we take our losses with homes. Well, it depends when you're going to take that loss. Because there's times that you take the loss because either you lost your job or you just put yourself in a financial situation where you're not able to do that. But if you're still paying your payment on time and all that, and you could sustain, recession, a meltdown and stuff like that and keep your home long term, the benefits always I'm going to say actually the sacrifice of having that home is going to really outperform, and give you the greater benefit of it. And that's what I've seen. Like if I can go back and I was able to maintain the 8 properties that I lost in the mortgage meltdown, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation.
That
right?
and there's a liquidity element to this too, to your point. Like if you have money in the market that you need to move out and you need to sell off some things or some holdings and liquidate some of those funds to have cash to use, it might be better to do that out of your funds than your house based on the situation. Or if you need a big amount, how many times we talked here about the house is bailing people out because if they don't have anything in the holdings in a portfolio or something and they're $100,000 in debt because they just got $100,000 in debt, and the equity is there to save them, that is their only choice. So it's hard to just make one of these my favorite kid because they're both my favorite kid, but for a variety of reasons, and liquidity is one of those.
Yeah. Or here in California, if you're finding yourself in a situation and you've lived in the property 2 years out of the 5, you can sell that and have no capital gains.
That's right.
And so now you can actually take that money, invest it however you wish, and put in the stocks, do it however you want to do that investment vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
So for me, again, I always go back to the house because the other benefit that you can do here in San Diego, we have that whole accessory dwelling unit that we can utilize our garage and convert it into a 1-bedroom or a studio and converting that. Let's just say you're spending $75,000 to do that. And you're renting it for $2,000, your cash on cash is going to be on the high 20s, low 30%. What stock is really paying us like that?
Yeah.
So
NVIDIA. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Hold on. That may not be true on the day you watch this.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is you're not going to experience the ups and downs with that.
Yeah, I know.
It's going to be a different investment vehicle because the rents will continue to go up with the cost of living on an annual basis. Therefore, your NVIDIA, it's not going to look the same as that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm going with that.
Well, do you have any final thoughts? I want to go on to the next thing. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's go on to the next thing.
Because we're gonna. It is a home related comment, and this has to do with policy change. And so, there are a couple of different bills in front of Congress right now that have to do with housing. And surprise, surprise, not surprised at all. It's things we've already talked about, things that we were saying to each other and to our audience, like, hey, these things would help builders. It would incentivize them. It would create more inventory. It would help with pricing. And so guess what? All the same things we're feeling on the real estate and mortgage side of the world are making their way through, I'll say, the halls of Congress. Yeah. And it seems, at least with this from Housing Wire, that both sides are in agreement. What? Both sides are in agreement that we need these. So there's 2 bills right now that are aimed at boosting housing supply and improving prices. And guess what one of the solutions was, guys? Tax credits for developers. Ding, ding, ding. Sound familiar? So we had talked about this before as a way to incent builders to build by giving them some sort of land grants, some sort of tax incentive, other bond measures that will help them, not necessarily because they, I'm going to say, need it. But if we need housing more than they need to build it, we have to kind of coax them into doing it, right?
Gotcha.
So I'm not necessarily mad about that. I think it's going to be a positive thing if we can bring more inventory online. And so one of the things is called the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act. And this is to create new jobs and stimulate the economy in the areas in which all these things are, these homes are built. One of the bills is called the Housing Supply Frameworks Act, which is helping create best practices for zoning and land use, which is ding, 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 the other thing we talked about, which is freeing up land that may not currently be zoned to build on to actually build some of these homes. So,
well, here in Otay Ranch, I know we talked a couple of weeks ago, but we got the Baldwin brothers coming in here and develop. What was that? 1,400 acres?
Like 13. I think it's 1,300, 1,400 acres, something like that.
There. They're going to build 2,750 homes, and a lot of that area was preserved. And so now it seems like that we're moving out of that to make sure that we could accommodate, the volume of people that are coming into our area here in Chula Vista.
Yeah, I think you could take that information and just be positive about the fact that there's deals going on that they're going to be able to build more. They're going to be able to make land accessible so that these builders could get in there, bring more inventory, because we know that's one of the biggest problems right now: affordability, inventory, and it just causes a huge bottleneck.
And I think that's a great thing that they're actually considering doing that, and incentivizing these developers. That's just going to keep home prices leveled, where it becomes a lot more affordable for people. I used to love the idea that my property value was kept going up, but then I started realizing that if I sell it, I'm going to just get into a higher debt. Even if I put all the proceeds into a property, I'm going to want more or less a similar property, to accommodate our family. My payment's higher, so, and then because my property taxes will be higher, so it's like, well, sometimes it's like maybe we should have just slowed it down. I love that I'm getting the equity, but sometimes having that it just goes so high so quickly, it's kind of like it almost feels like a catch-22, to be honest.
I understand that, and I think that I think that in general, even though we feel those things maybe on the personal or localized kind of like neighborhood level, I think in general this is like a sample set of like the larger conversation that I think that maybe these policy decisions can help drive and fix, or at least fix. Maybe it's not the right word, but we need inventory. We need the inventory, so it has to come on board somehow. And if it's not going to come on board with the open market just being the open market, like, okay, we have capitalism. We have capitalism. All right, so if capitalism isn't delivering a solution, what do we need to have happen so that a solution can be delivered? And this little example we had, it took how many years? Like 3 years before they finally were like, we're in agreement. And then they're like, the first shovel will go in like 3 years. And then the first house will be in like 5, and they'll develop for the next 3. So we're not even going to see a home for another 5 or 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
So even these like policies, like now, let's say they are enacted in 2025. Cool. Maybe there's some solutions by 2028 or 29 or 30.
Yeah.
Hang on, help is on the way.
Now, I will also say that I am optimistic that this will. I don't know what stage it's at the time that we're recording this. I just know it's happening. I don't know what stage we are in the process of this, but I am confident that because there was an executive order with the new administration that specifically cited the reduction of housing costs for Americans and to unclog the inventory issue, I think that this does have a pretty good chance, as long as it doesn't have like all this garbage tucked inside it. This does have a good chance to actually make its way through and then maybe create some incentives.
Nice.
And what doesn't have garbage? We'll see.
I'm trying to be optimistic. Now you're taking my position. Now you're like,
no, it's just because you see it here. The bill has 118 co-sponsors, evenly split between 59 Democrats and Republicans each.
Yeah,
so there it is. Where's the trash?
Well,
if there was none, I'm sure that that wouldn't be even.
There's probably some, but I think that it is it would be a futile effort to try to pack a bunch of garbage in, because if you do that and you know that it could just be killed with the strike of a pen and be vetoed, then you just wasted all that time and effort, and then now you set yourself back from actually achieving the thing that you were tasked with doing on day one of the executive order. So there's, I know I'm kind of talking in like theory here, like these people are as smart as we hope that they are, and some of them are and some of them aren't. Not to name names, but it would be a act in futility to do anything that would cause this to be stopped.
Got it.
That's my point. Okay. All right. Enough of this.
You think Doja's going to go in there and just shut it down?
No. But no. Remember, I'm saying this because remember the housing agencies were tasked like, hey, you all need to fix these problems. We need inventory. We need house prices. Our affordability is terrible. They were charged with this. Yeah. Now it's going to be up to these politicians to come up with solutions. We have 2 on the table, is what I'm saying, and it would work against them to be using and spending all this time to not actually cross the finish line with a solution.
Totally
having
understand.
been talks with this. So.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I don't like talking about policy more
agree.
than we've already talked about it. So what's the last thing we're talking about today, guys? Oh, you know what? We totally skipped over something, and it's okay. We'll come back to it. It was, is now a right time to buy a house? And we kind of already talked about it. It's okay. We already kind of talked about it, but I wanted to kind of end asking you to like state your case, like you're convincing the court and the jury. State your case for why someone should consider buying a house in 2025. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Brian?
Yeah.
You always said he's like,
I'll go first.
I'll go first.
And you know what, this article, what I do like, I know that we've been discussing this, but this is actually a good share because it has like, steps of what you want to do. So it just brings a lot more clarity to a first-time home buyer or somebody that's just entertaining the thought of actually purchasing a home. So I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
Because they understand the importance of it, right? So I like it.
Brian, you want to state your case?
Yeah. So, I mean, for first-time home buyers, we know it's hard to get into a house. Things are very expensive. What I would say is embrace the idea if you're, in a situation that you're able to house hack, buy with your friends, buy with the family, and try to, get your foot in the door. Now, if that's not the case and maybe the time isn't right now for you, then that's completely okay as well. Yeah. Go back to the drawing board, start saving up some money, create a budget, and find alternative routes to be able to, get yourself in that position. Now, if you're a seller, I would prioritize the presentation of your property. Why? Because I walked the property last week of a seller that was going to, put his house up on the market. And he's like, my house is ready. It's, perfect. I did this to it. I did that to it. You go walk in it and, it's a nice house. But what somebody, portrays as being nice or, ready, somebody else might have a different point of view. And also keep in mind that the prices of last year, the year before that, aren't the prices of today. So stay very, very, aware of what the market looks like. And lastly, if you're looking to refinance your house, like we mentioned plenty of times this last couple of minutes and last couple of episodes, get ready, submit your paperwork, run the refinance check, and you don't have to commit to anything if it's not there for you. So take those 3 things, those 3 strategies, and hopefully you could use them, put to use.
Yeah.
All right. Memo, you want to state your case?
Well, no, I do like it. And let me just go here with good news, home buyers. There's economic uncertainty. Love it.
Congratulations.
That's how the article starts, which is awesome. The great thing is we do have a lot more inventory. So there's more selection for a buyer. We're currently at 696,000. We're anticipating that that's going to grow, especially with the rates that we're in. So I do like that idea that we have more homes in the market. There's going to be more where buyers don't feel they're going to be outbid by other competitors. And it all depends on the property. So perfect time. I'm totally like, go for it. If you could afford it, go into it now, But like Brian says, you got to be prepared. Be prepared. And that's why I like this article because it takes people through the journey of what we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And it really goes in there. Obviously, we have home inventory, new home constructions, that's available. Home prices, they're pretty stable right now. Yeah. Things aren't going up as we saw the last prior years where people were outbidding each other by 10, 50, 100,000 people, in Silicon Valley, moving down to here to San Diego. They were like, wait a minute, I'm buying a bigger home for this much. My home's already, I'm in it. I'll pay $100,000 more. No problem. Even for second homes, we saw a lot of that. Is it a good time to buy a house? And it tells you here the answer in question, whether it's a good time to buy a house. For your personally, you must look into beyond the broader market forces. Buying a home is more considered macroeconomic factors. What is that telling you? That you really have to pay attention to all the little details. Put yourself in a position to make sure that you're going to bring that need to your family and yourself. So how's that? And then what do you see in 5 years? I like it. Like, visualize yourself. So I do get into this investment. I'm already making the sacrifice to get into this home. What do I visualize in 5 years from this? You know, so sorry I'm going through all this, but I just
No, that's what I asked.
I was into it. Your income, got to be very careful with your income. You know, we want to look at longevity. When we look as lenders, we want to see how long have you been in your employment? Is this just a new thing that you just got into the last couple of months? And then reassure yourself that this is going to be a job that's going to continue. Now, for people that have been there 5-10 years, the likelihood of them continuing with their job position and possibly getting pay increase is higher likely. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing. And I'm glad that they put that. The other thing to really consider is your credit score. People consider, again, to Brian's point, prepare yourselves. Make sure that your credit utilization is below 30%. If it's higher than that, instill new habits to make sure that your utilization becomes lesser than that 30%, if all possible. What do I mean by that? If you have a credit card that's $1,000, and I'll keep it simple, make sure you don't charge it above $300. That's 30% of utilization of that credit. Okay, so we want to always make sure that we stay there. Current debt. We see a lot of people, hey, you gave me the credit card. Why do I need to pay you on time? It's your fault for giving me that credit card. All right? Don't do that. They give you a credit card because they thought you're going to be responsible. Pay that on time. Make sure that all your credit, even rent, right now we're starting to see a lot more underwriters asking for rental verification. Want to make sure that when we request this document, that your landlord is going to say you've been paying on time. That right there can disqualify you. That's a negative thing. So I like that. Your savings, figure out what you're ready to put in, whether it's going to be 3.5%, 3% down, you're going to do down payment assistance, whatever that may be. Make sure that you figure that savings portion out, because when you get into this property, it's going to probably require paint, flooring, your needs, like Brian mentioned. To some people think their house is ready, and when you look at it, it's like, hey, that paint can gonna do it here.
I want to say that in the nicest way possible.
I'm sorry, I'm Hispanic. We like our yellows and like pink.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with those colors.
Pink it up.
And then in the next room, green.
Hey, no joke. We had like a yellow wall at our house next to a red wall. It looked like we were USC Trojan fans.
There you go. See, so all these things factor in. So I know it's a long one, but just prepare yourself. I think if you're well prepared with that and you already set that on paper and you kind of did your whole checklist, yep, I'm there. I have savings, perfect. My utilization's there. Then kind of check it off and make it fun for yourself. So when you get into this situation, which is a huge sacrifice, you know, because your mortgage, your rent may be at $3,000. Next thing you know, I'm at $4,500. Guess what? There's a lot of things you're going to have to change for that to happen.
Yeah, I really appreciate the way that you said that. It's put so simple, and like it's literally like, you know, checklist.
Yeah. Make it fun, right? Make it interesting. The process doesn't need to be so so complicated. And, you know, again, like the saying says, tell me who you hang out with so I can tell you who you are. It also conforms when you're buying a home. Have a great realtor that's going to have the negotiation skills. Don't just go with a friend that did one transaction too. Hire the proper person that's going to go out there. Because remember, right now with the whole real estate market, who's responsible for the buyer's commission? Realtor's buyer's commission.
Well, if the seller isn't, you know, putting forth that a commission, then the buyer is.
And they're signing this agreement prior to seeing homes. So what does that tell you? Is the buyer is now responsible for that 2.5%, 3% commission, right? So if you're going to do that, make sure that your realtor is identifying homes where the seller is willing to cooperate and pay that fee for you. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is you got to go with a strong realtor that is a great negotiator, because that's just part of the whole process.
Can't stress enough.
You know, then you have your lender, whoever you guys are using, make sure they're understanding the market. Right now, we are lock it, dock it, put the money in your buyer's pocket. You know, it's like, we're not playing this whole, let's float this thing. Like, if is the rate good for you right now? Are you going to buy points? I don't think so, because we're going to refinance. We see things happening right now, so we can kind of foresee the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, let's put them in the better position so they don't throw their money away.
Yeah.
especially if you're going to refinance them. So those are things to consider. Is your loan officer is no longer just an order taker. If they are, make sure that you're that savvy to understand what you're getting yourself into. If you're not, allow them to provide you the proof of that guidance.
Yeah. Basically, don't try to sit in the driver's seat. Just be a passenger and go along with the journey, and you'll get there safely.
Exactly. My other thing is advice, since we're in the home topic, is when you identify that home, there is going to be that inspector that inspects your home. And a lot of times we go into the property and we start chatting with our realtor, because most of the time they're there with us. I'll get away from those conversations. Go to that property. Go and pretend you're washing dishes. Go to this John and sit on the John and just kind of look around and see, do I see myself here? Or what flaws do I see that I think I should negotiate? Because that is the time. Like, really get that feel of that property to get you moving in the best direction possible.
Awesome. So I have 3 words for you guys.
Oh, thank you.
And it's from one of our guests that was on Friends and Mortgage Shares, which you're going to love. It's success leaves clues. Mm-hmm. So Sam was here and he was talking about success leaves clues, and I think there are 3 things that are evidence of success that people should take advantage of when they're going to buy a house this spring and this summer. Number 1, inventory. We have had, at the end of March 2025, we had 73 consecutive weeks of inventory increase. 73 weeks. The second thing is price stability. It is average for us to have 30 to 35% of listings with a price drop. That doesn't mean a price plummet, a price drop. Even if it's by $100 or $1,000, it's still considered a price drop. That number has not changed either. So that
really?
is
I would have thought that increased to like 38, 39%.
No, it's still right around like that 34 to 36, which is kind of within range still. Yes. So because it hasn't spiked, that's why I'm saying the success leaves clues, right? So one of our clues is inventory has been increasing. So we had inventory. Next clue is price stability. It's kind of there because we're within that range of what's normal for price reductions in listings. And the last thing is success leaves clues, which is the administration said we need housing to be made affordable again. There is only so long that they're going to tolerate it being unaffordable before it actually becomes more of a heavy hammer blow to the head type thing that people are going to have to start taking action on the developer side, the industry side, housing agency side, politician side. Like, just watch. If we get 6 months in this administration, 9 months in, and there's no action on that, or there's no forward progress on that, the hammer's going to fall. Yeah. Success leaves clues. You can take that one to the bank.
Trump versus Powell, 2025.
Yeah. So, guys, favorite part of the show. Go, Brian.
Favorite part of the show, honestly, was our conversation, the flow. I feel we don't always have to agree with each other, understand each other's points, but I think, having different perspectives in all these topics really helps our audience, have different points of views. People that, listen to Andy, people that listen to Will, people that listen to me. We have different people that tune in, so having a variety of different perspectives is really nice.
You're wrong. Next. I'm just kidding.
and it's okay. I agree to disagree.
I'm just kidding. Okay, Brian. Memo. Favorite part of the show.
Mine was the favorite part was, obviously, I'm very passionate of home buying, and I really think that, the housing market is a good time to buy, so it's a good time to buy.
Yeah.
I say anytime that you can actually afford to buy. You're already there. Make that commitment. Stay focused on it and just get it done. I'm telling you, 5 years forward, 5 years down the line, you're not going to regret that decision. Yeah. You're going to be like, damn it, thank goodness I did that.
Great point.
And I'm telling you, that's how I feel when I did things, and every client that I speak to, they're not hesitant.
Yeah, mine is from Sam. I mean, Friends and Mortgage Heroes, 2 episodes ago, actually 3 episodes now. 2 episodes ago. It's success leaves clues. I think there's a lot of clues in the market that say that we have brighter skies ahead. Silver lining in the clouds, guys. There's going to be something better for mortgage rates on the horizon. I think inventory is going to continue, and I think that there's going to be enough pressure going in enough directions that we're going to have more accessibility to housing than we are even in this moment in time that we're recording this. So I'm really excited about all of that.
Yeah, you mentioning that, Andy, I really like the way where we're heading right now. I feel like I'm glad that there's some type of movement that's going on. Even though it's uncertain, these are things that said that we're going to get done, and they're getting done. Things are happening. So I feel good about that, and I feel like there's just going to be more stability as we continue to move forward. Everything takes time. When you have a project and you're building something, guess what? You don't build it right away. It takes time. It takes step 1, 2, 3 as until you complete the project. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going through right now is our country is being rebuilt. you know, and we have to adjust. Just like my son, like Tanya and I, we talk about it, and I get passionate with it because, you know, my generation taught me to be one way. And that's how I was raised. Now I'm teaching my next generation is to communicate with them and listen, you know, because their generation, I don't know what they're going through. So I just have to pay attention to what they're doing so I can try to figure out how we collaborate and how do we keep a happy family without disagreement, you know, and I think communication is going to be key in what we're doing and how we're going to move forward.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
I don't like to put these extra layers of defense and just say, that's wrong, that's wrong. Like, I got no choice but to figure out how am I going to adapt into this new environment that we're heading into. And we're talking about this when we got our new iPhone, right? We were so like, what the heck? And next thing you know, that was one of the best inventions we could have had.
Yeah.
And I just think that's the route that we're getting. Our economy is going to get better. And I really feel confident that we're moving in the right direction, and we'll see.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Signs are promising, and I think we're just gonna have to wait and find out. But everything's looking like, you know, you could predict it for a more positive way than a few months ago. Like, I want it to go this way, but I don't know. Now it's kind of like, I see the data, I see the progress. I think I have a better idea of where things are heading, and I like that.
Yeah. And we have growth, guys. The channel's growing. We're getting our friends back on Friends of Mortgage Heroes. So if you didn't catch our most recent episode with Anthony Renew from the Renew Home Team, we got Anthony's whose episode just aired a couple of days ago. So make sure to watch that and check out our other guests we've had. We've had some killers on the podcast. Man, this first quarter of 2025 was awesome. Amazing knowledge and real estate wisdom from industry leaders, nationwide industry leaders that happen to be here in our own backyard. So, Memo, Brian, thank you for joining for another show. Remember to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, turn on that notification bell so that every time we put out a new video, you hear about it first. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you again next week.
Yeah. See ya.
So if you enjoyed this video and got value from it, subscribe right here. And if you want to watch another video, click right here.